The heavy gate obviously acts as a barrier between the creepy estate of Vlad Popescu and the living world. The grave of a R. Wilco. It says, he always reached for the stars, but didn't make it, according to his memoirs. The grave of a H. Jones. It says, a famous globe-trotter and scholar near and far. He's now in heaven, teaching his archaeology seminar. The grave of one L. Laffer. It says, while alive he chased after every young girl's bust. It didn't take long for him to bite the dust. The tomb of M. Calavera. It says, during his lifetime Mr. Calavera was rather bony and bizarre. But in death, thanks to such pale bones, he is certainly the big star. Huh? I don't get it. Hello, I really don't want to disturb your, devotion, but I have a really important question that I hope you can help me with.
Hello, young mortal. Welcome to the land of eternal darkness and omnipresent gloom. With what am I, Vlad Popescu, allowed to frighten you today?
Excuse me? Frighten me? Please don't. I had to summon up all of my courage to hike up the dark path here. But my concern is of the utmost urgency.
Oh, so you're probably not here to talk about my illustrious career as a scary movie icon? Then excuse my flowery greeting. My fans expect me to speak in this way.
Sorry, I am indeed not here to talk about scary movies. Maybe there'll be time for that later. At the moment I'm looking for a package that may have arrived in the mail recently. You would certainly have noticed it immediately. A package with a cat.
A package? With a dead cat?
No. I do hope that Mr. Fumbleclaw is quite well.
Why would anyone send a package with a live cat? That does not sound very reasonable to me. But I am sorry to disappoint you. Neither have I received a package with a dead cat, nor a package with a live cat. Unfortunately, I get very little mail at all in recent years. I am afraid the world has forgotten the great Vlad Popescu by now.
Drat! Again, no success. I'm running out of ideas on where to look for Mr. Fumbleclaw. Slowly, I'm really worried about the poor cat. Good, then I will not disturb you any further and wish you a nice evening. Very strange. Wasn't it broad daylight until just now?
I'm sorry I couldn't help you with your cat. But do you really have to go already? Unfortunately, I get very few visitors lately.
I don't want to disturb you any further. You seem very absorbed in your devotions.
That's all right, my young visitor. I've been standing here a lot lately, pondering my life. Oh, how rude of me! I have not yet properly introduced myself.
You are Vlad Popescu, aren't you? The horror movie actor. I think I owe one of my earliest childhood traumas to you. My name is Whiskers, by the way. Scott Whiskers.
Oh, you know me? Really? You can't believe how happy I am! Unfortunately, my name is no longer a household word among today's youth. Today, it is all about chopped heads and bloody, scary dolls. The times of dignified, scary cinema are unfortunately long gone.
That's sadly true. I, for one, prefer a classic Edgar Allan Poe adaptation to any slasher film of today. Real horror. Modern cinema simply can't do that anymore.
My dear Scott, you speak from my soul. Oh, how happy I am that there are still young people who are familiar with the works of Vincent Price or Christopher Lee.
Or the works of one Vlad Popescu. Which leads me to an important question, and I hope you won't hold it against me.
Go ahead, my uninvited yet welcome guest. Ask your question. As my life will last a few more minutes, I am willing to answer it fully.
Shouldn't you be dead by now? Or at least 150 years old? I bet I've seen you in a movie alongside Boris Karloff in a movie from the 20s of the 20th century. But that can't be possible.
Why shouldn't that be possible? I don't look a day over 149, do I?
You scare me. And that's completely without a movie screen.
Don't worry, my young Mr. Whiskers. I think I can let you in on the big secret. It probably doesn't matter much anymore, anyway. Indeed, the greatest secret of my life. And I must ask you to keep this one for yourself and take it to your grave.
A secret? Oh, I love a good secret.
Who doesn't? Well then, the Vlad Popescu you saw alongside Boris Karloff, that was. Well, that was my grandfather, Vlad Popescu V, and the Vlad Popescu who shone alongside Vincent Price in the late 50s. Well, that was my father, Vlad Popescu VI.
Oh, and so you are...
Vlad Popescu VII, and I fear also the last of his kind. The Popescu horror dynasty will unfortunately come to an end with me. But that's alright. Popescu simply no longer fits in today's cinema. Today, it's all about pointy ears and fairy tales and space movies.
I think you would have been an excellent Spock in your younger years.
I have no idea who or what a Spock is, but I thank you for your kind words. My hope as an actor of the old school is still to play one or the other interesting role, and then disappear into the mists of oblivion.
Is that why you stand here at the graves? To remember times gone by and to commemorate friends who have passed away?
Well, unfortunately, it's the case that if you live for 150 years like me,
Wow, you're really into your role.
you have to bury many old companions, and it is only decent of me to remember the old times here from time to time.
Your melancholy is so slowly becoming contagious.
Oh, I am sorry. That was not my intention.
Is there anything I can do to cheer you up a little? Maybe a small cat from the animal shelter where I work would please you. When I'm sad, I always take an extra shift at the shelter to be with my cuddly Jimmy. His purring brightens my spirits every time.
I'm afraid my cat hair allergy wouldn't allow that. No, I'm only happy, really happy, on the big screen. But unless you happen to be a movie producer who has a role for an aging movie star like me, I'm afraid you can't do anything for me.
Well, I don't want to promise anything, but in fact, I have solved much more difficult tasks in this game. I will definitely keep my eyes open for a role for you.
And I appreciate that very much. And I very much hope that you'll find your package cat. No animal should be shipped in such a undignified way.
Thanks. See you later.
See you. And whenever you want to spend some time here at the grave, you're always welcome to do so. Welcome back.
The horror cinema of today is also not what it used to be.
Tell me about it, my young Mr. Whiskers. Tell me about it. Nowadays, it's all about severed heads, displayed guts, and crazy guys with long, bloody knives.
Don't forget the crazy little kids who try to turn their pets into monsters because modern cinema suggests it's a good idea.
Well, that may seem a bit far-fetched to me, but yes, all the brutal horror on the silver screen naturally influences the younger generation. In my time as a young actor, it was all different. Horror was based above all on a sophisticated cinema of thought. It was not necessary to show brutality openly. It was enough to just hint at it. A loud scream in the distance. A camera panned to the sky when Dracula sank his teeth into the victim. An effective shadow play on the churchyard wall when the werewolf attacked his victim. Nothing was more gruesome than the horror that took place in the mind of the moviegoer himself. Quite apart from the fact that only in this way was a teen rating possible for such movies, and that automatically attracted a larger audience, from a purely economic point of view.
Personally, I'm more of a fan of true ghost stories. I find a vampire or werewolf only moderately creepy. Although I have to admit that the Twilight Saga film series was quite scary, even if for completely different reasons.
I'm glad to hear that. You may know that I have had the honor of starring in several Edgar Allan Poe movie adaptations.
Sorry, when I think of Edgar Allan Poe movie adaptations, I have the especially legendary Vincent Price in mind.
That's all right. Vincent Price was indeed a great actor, and without him in front of the camera and Roger Corman behind it, Mr. Poe's movies wouldn't have the status they do in today's pop culture. And I agree with you, nothing is scarier than a well-told ghost story. An art that only a very few movie makers have mastered these days.
Like Guillermo del Toro with The Devil's Backbone, or J.A. Bayona with The Orphanage.
The Orphanage? I don't think I've seen it yet. Is that movie scary? Apart from the fact that I generally find children quite scary.
Oh, the flick will make your blood run cold. A really great told ghost story. Subtlety told, full of twists, highly tragic.
Sounds interesting indeed. Thanks for the tip. My young friend, this conversation is starting to make me a little melancholy.
Oh, why's that? Yeah, The Orphanage is a rather sad movie. But to be in a melancholic mood, you should have seen it first.
No, that's not what I meant. Unfortunately, at my age, the chance of being allowed to star in a classic scary movie is about zero. No one wants to see a washed-up, old-school horror star in a modern movie anymore. After all, the only thing I have left to look forward to is some small supporting role in another sequel to these weird Star Quarrels. I am afraid my time as an actor is definitely over.
Oh, I would find that a great pity. Well, I admit I haven't really seen many movies of yours, but your creepy presence is undeniable. When I first spotted your silhouette from the wall below, I had to summon up all of my courage to hike up here to your house. And if I hadn't been on such an important mission, I would never have dared to do that. I'm sure that there are still one or two directors who appreciate this uncanny, because natural presence. And I would recommend you directly for Susie Longbottom's Hamster Spider horror movie, if I thought I was doing you a favour with that recommendation.
Thank you, my young friend, for these kind words. In fact, I don't have much interest in starring in a poor horror flick anymore. And certainly not in a horror film by an up-and-coming director with a weakness for animal horror. Maybe it would be a good idea to play in a completely different genre. Maybe in a romantic comedy, or in a western.
That does sound like a good plan. And I'm convinced the author of this video game already has one or two clever ideas.
Do you really think so? Unfortunately, I've never met him in person. But he's supposed to be a great guy.
The best.
Well, then I'd best let myself be surprised for once. With a bit of luck, my days as an actor are not yet numbered.
I'm absolutely sure of that.
Is there be anything else?
I would like to know more about the Popescu's dynasty.
Oh, you're actually interested in my family history? How nice of you.
So you're really Vlad Popescu VII, and therefore not 150 years old. Are you absolutely sure?
I would say so, and I am proud to have done justice to the dynasty of movie Popescus. Even though the dynasty will probably come to an end with me. Scary movie actors are unfortunately not as popular with today's women as they were in the good old days.
I find that fascinating. You actually look absolutely like your father and grandfather.
This is Hollywood, my dear. A perfect makeup and a small gene defect are all it takes for this trick.
Was Vlad Popescu I also working in the movie industry?
Movie? My dear boy, when do you think the first movies were made?
I don't know. End of the Middle Ages, maybe?
No, of course not. It wasn't until the turn of the century, that is around 1900, that the first moving pictures could be admired.
Whoops.
But Vlad Popescu I was indeed an actor, and he did so as part of a traveling circus in the old country.
Oh, I've heard the term old home in a movie before. So you're Italian?
Italian? Nonsense. My roots are in Romania, of course. You don't really know much about the world. Could that be?
Well, admittedly, I got most of my general education from movies and video games.
Yes, that's what I thought. But back to the topic at hand. Where was I?
At Popescu, Part 2 to Part 4.
Ah, right. Vlad Popescu II was an actor, too, of course. Just like the third and the fourth. All highly respected in the Kingdom of Romania.
A kingdom? A real one? Wow, that's so cool! With knights and dragons and the whole shebang.
My dear boy, please don't take this the wrong way now. But think you definitely consume too much modern media. Why don't you read a book? Preferably a history book.
I must have read A Song of Ice and Fire in its entirety 3 times already. And I've also been through The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit twice.
Be that as it may, Vlad Popescu V then eventually emigrated from the old country and made a name for himself in Hollywood.
And who came up with the idea of immortality?
Immortality? You mean who had the idea that Grandpa, Dad, and I all appear as the same person?
Exactly, immortality, even if only on the big screen.
Well, that was Grandfather's idea. He thought it would give the brand name Vlad Popescu the necessary mysterious aura.
And he was obviously right. I'm still not completely convinced if you're not immortal after all.
You forgot that at the stroke of midnight, I turn into a fearful vampire and eat the faces of young visitors.
That was just a joke, right?
Who knows? Why don't you wait here with me for a bit until the clock strikes 12, and then let's find out.
I think I better go. But thank you for the history lesson. That was indeed fascinating. And if I ever come to Italy, I will look for the traces of the Popescus.
Good luck with your search. Is there be anything else?
Graves so close to the house, isn't that a little creepy?
Don't mention it. Why, I think everyone should have at least 1 or 2 graves on their doorstep.
Why would anyone want a grave on their doorstep? I find that extremely macabre.
Let me tell you, my young visitor, there is nothing more relaxing than standing in front of a grave for a while at the evening hour, after a hard day's work, and doing some soul-searching. After all, the dead have nothing better to do than listen to my everyday problems and give me 1 or 2 pieces of wise advice. In fact, one of my grandfather's best ideas was to negotiate with the municipality a cemetery outpost here at the Popescu property. Even though I think he did it primarily to add another layer of mystery to the brand name Vlad Popescu. Nothing sells better than an actor of scary movies who lives at a cemetery.
I see. Yes, that does indeed make sense.
Indeed, right. It did not take long until the first guests moved into their eternal resting place. I think Mr. Calavera was the first.
Did you know any of your, guests personally?
No, not really. Some of them moved in before my time. But that doesn't stop us from having lively conversations at night.
How did they die? Your guests?
I know very little about that. Mr. Calavera, I understand, had a minor accident with a scythe while mowing his lawn. Mr. Vilko must have been hit by a meteorite during a night hike, which came down a few 100 meters behind my property. No idea of what he wanted there. Probably he had set up his telescope again to observe the starry sky. Unfortunately, I don't know anything about Mr. Jones.
And Mr. Laffer? Larry Laffer? The Larry Laffer?
Larry Laffer? No, the name was as it stands. L. Laffer.
You mean the first name consisted only of an L and a dot? That's what I call unusual.
Yes, indeed. A strange first name. But the last name is not much better.
I guess that's true. And how did Mr. Laffer pass away?
As far as I know, Mr. Laffer was the luckiest man in the world. He must have died 1,000 different deaths. He has drowned in the sea, been bitten by a rattlesnake, fallen down a mountain gorge, been attacked by wild animals.
Oh my. A real lucky guy. And what then untimely became his undoing?
Marriage, my young friend. Marriage.
Marriage?
Yes. Mr. Laffer was the biggest playboy and womanizer all his life. At some point, however, he made the momentous decision to sail into the harbor of marriage.
That probably didn't end well then.
No. In fact, that was the moment his luck ran out. One day after the wedding, he was dead.
Oh my.
A life full of debauchery leaves its mark. Let this be a lesson to you, Mr. Whiskers.
Understood. I will never get married.
That's not really what I was trying to say. But be that as it may, lately I come down here in the evenings and keep my guests company. And if you don't mind, I'd like to stand here for a while and think about my life in peace.
Why, of course. And when I think about it, the idea of graves on the doorstep is not so wrong. When at that time, I must have been about 10, my beloved dachshund Robbie left me. My grandmother laid him to eternal rest in our flower bed. And whenever I felt bad and sad, I visited Robbie and told him about my worries. I always found that very comforting. Robbie was, in life as in death, the best listener one could wish for. I missed the little rascal.
Welcome.
I might have a movie role for you which would be perfect.
Oh, really? Have you found your missing cat in the meantime?
No, unfortunately not yet, but I am quite capable of multitasking. And after having seen 500 episodes of Highway to Heaven in the afternoon program as a child, that probably left its mark on me a little bit.
I had no idea you were also a movie agent.
Well, I've always been a big fan of agent movies.
You don't say. But please, don't keep me in suspense. What is your movie about? Is it any good? And do you really think there's room in it for a grandpa like me?
Well, let's put it this way. The genre will definitely suit you. The movie itself, well, even if the director is quite capable, he certainly won't win an Oscar for it. And as far as the topic of the grandfather is concerned, yes, we would indeed have to come up with something. Unfortunately, the role is intended for a much younger actor. But I am absolutely convinced that you would be perfect for it. And if movie and television can make up a 60-year-old Tom Cruise look 25, I'm really not worried about you.
What is your movie about?
It's a classic horror movie with vampires, werewolves, the whole shebang.
So, something like Dracula. I was always great as Dracula.
Yeah, exactly. Something like Dracula, with a touch of Beverly Hills 90210 and a pinch of A Fistful of Dollars.
That sounds like a daring mixture. And not at all like the Dracula I know. You said A Fistful of Dollars. So it's a Western? I've always wanted to be in a Western.
Yep, a Western, albeit tailored to a rather modern cinema audience. And to give credit where credit is due and lay all the cards on the table, this is a romance horror Western.
Oh, what now?
A romance horror western! The genre is currently big at the box office.
You don't say. Doesn't really sound like something I would necessarily play. Is my role any good? I assume that it is the main role.
Well, no. You would be the handsome, young, funny sidekick to the main character.
So, something like the second lead role, or at least the most important supporting role.
I'll be honest, I have no idea exactly how extensive or important your role is in the movie. And I'm afraid you better not expect too much from the role. But wouldn't even a small role in a blockbuster, and I fear the movie will be very successful, be better than no role in any movies? Such a flick could be an excellent springboard for further and far better roles.
You're right, of course. And please excuse me if I sounded a little ungrateful for a moment. You don't get rid of those star airs and graces from the good old days overnight. And you're absolutely right, of course. You come here, interrupt your important search for the little cat, and bring me this great offer. Of course, I am grateful to you. Very grateful. Even a small chance at a small role is better than no chance at any role.
I'm glad you see it that way.
Do you think I have a chance at the role?
In terms of your experience and skill, absolutely. The only crux, unfortunately, is the issue with the grandpa. This is where I think your expertise is needed. Do you possibly have any idea how the old Tom Cruise still passes off so believably as a 25-year-old Tom Cruise? Some magic Hollywood magic trick?
So, apart from Botox and special effects, it's actually not that difficult. Not much has changed since today. Only unfortunately I can no longer afford a personal stylist. Not to mention expensive professional makeup.
That sounds like two problems that can be solved.
Do you really think so? Maybe if I came across a little younger, I would indeed have a shot at that role. That would be absolutely great. I miss the big screen so much. And it's like you say, after a small, maybe not so great role, maybe the greatest role of my life will follow. Who knows?
I'm really glad that you see it so positively. And as far as the subject of your age is concerned, I'm sure we'll come up with something.
I think you were sent from heaven. And please forgive me that the first reflex was to get out the garden hose and shoo you off the property when I first saw you. I had no idea. Should I go somewhere to audition for the role? Do you know any details?
I think the director doesn't attach much importance to an audition. A meaningful photo of the applicant is probably enough for him. He's a very visual visionary.
That should only be fine with me. You don't possibly have one of those great modern camera phones and could snap a few pics of me?
Unfortunately, I left my cell phone on the bus.
Oh, what a pity.
But don't worry, we'll think of something about that too.
Oh, your optimism is so contagious, my young friend. It is indeed long overdue that the name Vlad Popescu shines again in its old glory and from the movie posters all over the world.
I'm quite confident about that. Patrick Stewart made a terrific comeback as Captain Picard at the ripe old age of 81. And you don't look a day over 78.
too friendly. In fact, I am even younger by quite a bit. So then, whenever the shoot can begin, I'm ready. And as far as the smaller hurdles that still need to be overcome are concerned, I have complete confidence in you now. My personal angel on earth. Is there me?
I have to.
See you.
I might have an idea how you could still get a part in the James Pollock romantic horror western.
You mean that important support?
Yeah. Unfortunately, the problem is that, at least, personally, I think, but Hollywood...
And
Simple. You probably don't know this, but I've been going to all kinds of science fiction and fantasy conventions for years.
you don't say.
And since I've always created my own costumes and masks over the years so far, I've developed quite a bit of talent as a makeup artist over that time.
Really? So you know how to use a brush?
I do. My face painting as a zombie from The Walking Dead was always the crowning glory of any convention party.
And you think you could spice up my face a bit?
I think so. And as luck would have it, I also found a collection of professional makeup on the side of the road. Presumably, it had fallen from the truck. And I would consider it a great honour if I could do your makeup and help you get this great movie role.
Really? You would make an old man very happy with that. My stylist from the old days is unfortunately long gone.
Sorry to hear he's dead.
Dead? No, he came to visit 2 years ago, then left, and I've never seen him since.
So, probably dead after all. Be that as it may. Would you mind if I now prove my skills with brush and makeup?
Of course not. On the contrary, I would be forever indebted to you.
Great. Then I'll get started. Please do not move now, if possible. And done. And if I may say, one of my best works so far.
Really? Too bad I decided years ago not to install a mirror here at the graves. I guess I'll just have to take your word for it now.
You can! You look decades younger!
In any case, the makeup smells nicely of roses. And also a little of cat.
I know, a daring fragrance composition. However, it is fully in line with the trend.
And do you really think I have a chance at the role now?
I'm absolutely sure of that.
Or can you please schedule an audition since you seem to know?
I don't think that's necessary.
Oh, really? And
Unfortunately.
oh,
But don't.
you.
I think we have to come up with something regarding your hair colour.
Oh, yeah. You're probably right. Unfortunately, grey hair is still not in vogue.
It is, but unfortunately only if you're auditioning for the role of the Witcher Geralt of Rivia. But for the role in Mr. Pollock's Western, a more natural hair colour would probably be appropriate.
You're probably. Do you perhaps?
Not,
Too.
but don't. Now that you have such great makeup, it would be. I can certainly.
Thank you very. I can't wait to get back into. I missed the big.
Oh my god!
What? What's wrong? Are you alright?
Behind you!
Behind me? What's behind me?
Don't you see that? There! Behind you! The three-headed monkey!
What? How? There? Damn boy, what are you doing?
Drat! I forgot the beard.
You what?
Oh my god! He's back! The three-headed monkey! But this time for real!
Huh? What the heck, boy? What are you doing?
Well, you know the saying, the end justifies the means? I'm sorry if I've caught you a little off guard now. But you do have to acknowledge my adeptness at using the spray can. At least not a drop of paint ended up in your eyes. That's where my years of spray can training in painting action figures really pays off.
Drat. But why? What was all that about? I'll never get the colour out of my hair again.
I'm sure there's a paint thinner expert in the game who can give you some tips. And as for the why, well, now nothing should stand in your way.
Oh, that's why you've now to secure me.
That's right.
And you really didn't have a less definitive idea there.
Why definitive?
Well, I'm sure I won't get that, which unfortunately will limit my acting.
Don't as I said, I'm sure there's a paint thinner expert in the game who'll be happy to help you with.
Do you really?
I'm absolutely.
Do you want me to?
I don't think that's Mr. I don't. You no, but I'll come.
Your creativity borders on body. The end